Appalachia has long been home to some of the most colorful characters to ever roam its winding hollers, each with stories as rugged and wild as the land itself. But perhaps none are as legendary as Ches McCartney, the boy who left home at age 14 to marry a beautiful 28-year-old Spanish knife thrower, traveling America with her as her target in her performances, before breaking her heart and blazing a trail of his own, traveling like a nomad to 49 states, led by his faithful herd of nearly 30 goats for over 40 years. He gained international fame as his legend grew and even ran to be President of the United States. This is the incredible, true story of the Goat Man. For some, the mountains have always been our home. We were born and raised here. But for others, the allure of the mountains have always called them from far away, and they eventually make their way here. Our story today deals with one such fella. Charles Ches McCartney was born on July 6, 1901, in Sigourney, Iowa. By all means, Ches was your typical farm boy, living a simple life. The sparsely populated town he grew up in meant that there were more animals than people, and Ches spent his days tending to them on the family farm. However, his favorite animals were the large herd of goats that his father raised. And if you've ever been around goats, you know that each one of them has a unique personality. They can be jokesters, friendly, or even just flat out mean. Even as a young boy, Ches had a way of understanding them all. In 1915, a traveling circus came to town, complete with animals, freak shows, trick riders, and an assortment of curiosities. And during one part of the show, a beautiful 28-year-old Spanish knife thrower asked for a volunteer from the audience to put a balloon on the top of their head so she could throw razor-sharp daggers at it. Taken by her sheer beauty, Ches immediately threw his hand in the air, and within a few moments, he was tied to the board with a balloon on his head.
"Don't worry, my love. I would never harm a single hair on your head,"
the Spanish beauty whispered into his ear before spinning the board that Ches was tied to. Within moments, she flung 2 knives at lightning speed through the air as the crowd held their collective breath. Ches's eyes widened as he caught a glimpse of the knives tumbling towards his head before hearing a large pop and the eruption of the cheers from the audience. That's how it happened. At age 14 years old, Ches left his family farm and ran away with the circus, becoming a target for the Spanish beauty each time she performed, and also becoming her lover. After a whirlwind romance, the two were married. Each night, the couple would visit some tavern or bar where Ches would take down the dartboard, and his wife would throw 25 razor-sharp knives at his head. After 4 years of touring America, the Spanish vixen retired so that she could raise a family. Yet Ches was just 18 years old. No, he wasn't ready to settle down. So, one night, as his beautiful wife slept, he grabbed his clothes and left her forever. Ches McCartney and the true story of the Goat Man is just getting started. If you enjoy tales like this, I hope you'll consider checking out my new book, The Appalachian Storyteller, which is full of stories just like this one. And now, back to the Goat Man. Ches McCartney returned home to Iowa, where he worked in logging camps through the roaring 20s and the 1930s. He eventually remarried twice more and even had a son. But it was during the Great Depression that a tragic accident took place. Chess was cutting timber deep in the forest for the Works Progress Administration when he cut a tree that fell in an unexpected way, landing on top of him and shattering his entire left side and pinning him to the ground for hours. When the search party finally arrived, they presumed he was dead and took him to the local funeral home. And as he was lying there on that cold metal table, the mortician stuck the embalming needle in Chess's neck, and just then he suddenly sprang back to life. From that moment on, Chess was a changed man. He dedicated the rest of his life to telling anyone he met how God had saved his life. So, in 1939, Chess set out to build a makeshift wagon. It was a homemade affair, covered with tin, old rubber, and tattered dingy cloth, with ropes and broken harnesses tying it all precariously together. 2 or 3 kerosene lamps were tied around the sides, with odd-sized reflectors, used for what purposes it wasn't exactly clear, tied together in clusters around the sides, and a huge dusty red flag attached to it all. A peek inside disclosed a folding camp chair, another wooden chest, a few utensils, and some bedding. As for horsepower, well, Chess had tied up 12 goats to the front and 2 spare goats trailing up the rear of the wagon. His wife took one look at the thing and said,
"Ain't no way I'm going anywhere in that contraption. It's either me or them goats."
And just like that, Chess was divorced. He had had his fill of women before hitting the road. He had been married 3 times, and he was even quoted as saying, "Well, the good book says there'll be 7 women for every man. Well, I've already had 3, and some other man can have my other 4. Thus, free from all the interference of women, Chess and his son set out on the road, both dressed in goat skins. Indeed, Chess was a sight to behold. His long, flowing beard and rugged appearance made him look like a prophet straight out of the Old Testament. They averaged traveling about 3 to 7 miles a day across America, traveling U.S. highways long before the interstates and backing up traffic for miles. Folks said that the goat man's smell would roll into town long before he ever did. But Chess always said, "Oh, those goats don't care how I look or smell. They trust me, and they have faith in me. And that's a lot more than I can say about a lot of people." Wherever he went, he drew attention. As his caravan approached town, news would quickly spread. "The goat man is coming." Folks would line the streets to get a glimpse of him. And some towns would even cancel school classes, so children wouldn't miss the big event. Those kids would chase after the goat-drawn wagon, and Chess would give each one of them a stick of gum. Once the goat man arrived in town, he would find an empty field on the outskirts to let his goats graze. Then he would start a large bonfire of tires that he had collected off the side of the road, and of course, the black smoke would attract a large crowd. Before long, people would start pouring in, and adults would pause their daily routines to see this strange curiosity. News journalists were always on the scene to capture his story, and once he had a good crowd, the goat man would spring into action, mounting his wagon and launching into a passionate speech about the coming of the Lord, urging everyone to repent of their sins and trust in the Lord with all their heart. When asked how he made a living, he would always respond, "Well, I'm glad you asked." And he would immediately pull out a stack of postcards from his overalls that featured pictures of him and his goats, and he would begin selling them for $1 each. Heck, for 50 cents you could even get your picture made with him. Between the postcards, the pictures, and selling scrap metal that he found along the highway, or even donations, the goat man managed to purchase enough food to get by on. And, of course, he always had a steady diet of goat milk. The day after the goat man would roll out of your town, there would always be signs that he had been there. Literally. Since he would post a farewell message on his way out, saying, prepare to meet thy God. During the 1940s, as America faced rations on everything from food to gasoline, the Goat Man crisscrossed America. And during the 1950s, he visited Alaska, Canada, and went up and down the eastern United States. Each winter, he would spend it in Georgia or Florida, where it was warmer before setting out once again in the spring. Long before Forrest Gump ever went for his long run, the Goat Man roamed the highways and the byways of America. Fueled by little more than wanderlust, his fame and legend continued to grow, and as might be expected, there were a number of erroneous tales circulating about him. During World War II, rumors started that Chess was a Nazi spy who had a shortwave radio hidden in his wagon. And as silly as it sounds, a sheriff in Virginia searched that wagon looking for the mystery radio. Others said that the Goat Man was actually a very wealthy man with hordes of money hidden in his wagon. Nonetheless, by 1960, the Goat Man was fed up with the direction America was heading. So, he threw his hat into the ring to be nominated for the President of the United States, even taking his goat parade to Chicago to the Democratic National Convention. He promised that if he was elected, he would quickly reduce government spending. The first thing he said he would do was fire all the White House gardeners and replace them with his goats. And he would place the 10 Commandments on the wall in the Oval Office. Remarkably, the Goat Man traveled all across America from 1939 to 1987, nearly a half century. It's said that he traveled over 100,000 miles to every state except Hawaii, because, as he said, his goats couldn't swim that far and they would have ate the skirts right off of those hula girls. However, most of his travels centered around Appalachia. Even today, there are scores of people from small towns in East Tennessee, Kentucky, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, and Virginia who remember when the Goat Man came to their town, preaching about the coming of the Lord. The roads he traveled were not just pathways through towns, but through the lives of those who met him. In each small town, the Goat Man became a fixture in the local consciousness. His presence was heralded by the unique aroma of his goats and the distinctive clatter of his wagon wheels on the asphalt. For many, a glimpse of the Goat Man was a cherished memory, a story to be told and retold. Sadly, not everyone loved the Goat Man, and throughout his travels, Chess McCartney encountered numerous adventures and misadventures, from getting caught in a snowstorm on Peabody Mountain to narrowly escaping a deadly brewery truck accident that killed 8 of his goats and sent him to the hospital. The time he was mugged in Los Angeles, trying to visit actress Morgan Fairchild. And then there was the incident in Alabama, where 3 men turned over his wagon while he slept, killing 2 of his goats. And that time in Oklahoma, when his wagon was set on fire with Chess sleeping in it, barely escaping death with half his beard burned off. But the one that finally made the Goat Man retire happened in Chattanooga, Tennessee, when a group of men cut the throats of 2 of his goats and robbed Chess of the only $3 he had in this world. Chess finally came off the road for good in 1987. He sold all his goats to Disney World, and then he settled in Twiggs County, Georgia, where he purchased a few acres of land. At first, he lived in a small house that he had built that was just as eclectic as the wagon that he roamed America with. But alas, it too was burned by someone. After that, he lived in a school bus, and he even preached at a nearby church called the Free-Thinking Christian Mission. By 1990, age had finally caught up with old Chess, and he spent his final years as a local celebrity at a nursing home in Macon, Georgia, where suddenly hippies began coming from all over the world for him to be a minister, to marry him. News reporters from all over America came to the nursing home to interview him, including CBS National News and even Good Housekeeping magazine. Even in the sunset of his life, Ches McCartney never stopped telling his stories, from marrying a Spanish knife-throwing beauty at age 14 to traveling America for a half-century. The Goat Man, Ches McCartney, passed away at the age of 97, leaving behind a legacy that continues to captivate the imagination. The Goat Man's journey may have ended, but his legend lives on, a reminder of a time when the open road called to those who had the courage to follow it. What about you, my friend? Did you ever see the Goat Man? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more true stories on Appalachia's past. The Appalachian Storyteller would like to thank our members whose generous contributions make true stories like this one possible. If you'd like to help support the cost of research and video production, click the join button below. Thank you for your support.